That was a beautiful description, Mawuli. I thank you for that. I wanted to record that myself just so that we can use that later. But the only thing I would add to that is NCBL is also just a home. It's a family for Black lawyers that are really committed to this liberation work. As you guys saw at the conference last week, we were a family that came together. It was like a family reunion, having a great time, learning from one another, and bringing young people into the fold. So, yes, we are an organization that, was founded in a time where the law was really being used as a weapon against us. And we said, no, let's use the law as a tool for liberation. And we built that family. We built that organization of Black lawyers that could come together and do something about it.
Wow. I love that. And among the many clients that NCBL has represented, folks, listen to this list. Angela Davis. That's right. Remember, most wanted in the United States. They have also represented not only Assata Shakur, but the Asika brothers, Geronimo Pratt, Mumia Abu Jamal, Ben Chavis, and the Wilmington 10, and so many others. Why don't you tell us right now, because people are saying, whoa, what a pass, but tell people right now about the present NCBL. What does NCBL look like in 2025?
Well, Whitley, you want to start that?
Yeah, I'm happy to. In 2025, we have learned from our elders that, started this fight back in '68, but we are still a nationwide membership organization, volunteer-led. We have 5 active chapters right now. We have a chapter in Georgia, as you all know, North Carolina, my home, New York, Michigan, and Washington, D.C. And those chapters are doing work on the ground locally. But then, collectively, we have members in other states as well, where we're supporting work through various committees and sections. So those sections and committees kind of focus on criminal justice, reparations, as we've mentioned, political prisoners. We talk about international human rights and international affairs. We talk about voter protection, Barbara. We talk about mentorship, which has been really the heart of our work in this 2025 year, mentorship. And then just public education. We've started talking about doing some legal observer collectives and trainings. We have a number of justice campaigns, I guess I would say, community education, where we're hosting CLEs for lawyers, but also educational programs for the community, so that the community understands changes in the law and things that impact the people of the community. And I'll just plug again our NCBL National BALSA mentorship program, where we're trying to connect the elders of NCBL with some of the emerging attorneys and emerging legal leaders, because we just understand the importance of carrying on this fight. So that's what we're doing right now. A lot more in store for 2026. But Mawuli, did I miss anything on that?
No.
I have a question for you there. If I may, Mawuli, one of the things that that folks are at home listening and they're wondering, say, well, that's really great that they have all this stuff going on for lawyers and Black lawyers across the country. Do you have to be a lawyer to be a part of NCBL? Is there a role for just activists that are not lawyers?
Absolutely, and that's one of the things that helps distinguish NCBL from other bar associations and organizations, is that we're rooted in community. And so we see our role is as not just lawyers, but legal workers, community organizers, people who came to the conference. We had pre-law students, we had law students, then we just had folks that are in community who have been struggling on behalf of political prisoners, who have been in contact with trying to help free political prisoners. And so, no, it's open, and we encourage people to join ncbl.org. Even if there's not a chapter in your locale, you can join the larger organization. We have sections that are doing work around international criminal justice, reparations, all the things that Whitley has laid out. So that work can be done from wherever you are. It's part of us knowing that we're not alone, that those of us who are constantly thinking about and working on, what does the future look like? What does a liberated life look like for our people? We've got a political organizing home for you, and we encourage people to join. And a lot of the things that we do are in collaboration with other organizations because, we have to build together in order for us to win together.
I love that the title for this year's conference was just so indicative of where the focus is for NCBL. The title, everybody, of the 2025 conference that just concluded on Saturday was Inspiring the Next Generation of Legal Warriors in the Movement for Black Liberation. The next generation. Tell us more about why that focus. Because a lot of people just want to celebrate the legends. But why was it important to talk about inspiring the next generation?
Barbara, we chose that title because as NCBL, we know that our survival as an organization, it depends on investing in new leadership. Our elders built this organization, but it's the next generation. And I credit Anna Inslee for really teaching me this, that it's the next generation that's going to carry this forward. I think about, I joined NCBL when I was just a couple years out of law school. And that very next year, they were nominating me to be on the board. And I'm like, well, what do you mean? I don't know what's going on yet. But they are really, invested in passing the baton and just kind of sharing the knowledge and preparing more legal warriors because this fight continues. And so, I thought it was very important to continue. I was kind of thrown out there. We wanted to do that too. So you saw at the conference, we wanted to center young people, not as just participants, but as leaders. We had all of our moderators. They were intentionally lawyers and students, or young lawyers and students. And I think, a lot of times in this legal field, a lot of, young Black lawyers are just kind of asked to watch and wait their turn. But we want young Black lawyers and students to speak. We want them to lead. And so I think it really just creates this space where this intergenerational learning can really go both ways. We intentionally had a panel, what can our elders learn from our young people and what can our young people learn from our elders? How do we build together? And it just signals, I think, for me, and the goal was to show that, we trust and value the expertise and the knowledge both ways, from the elders and from the young people.
Wow.
Mm-hmm. And Mawuli, one of the interesting things in the titling as well as the focus, and I just know our listeners are sitting there and they're listening to this and they're like, well, wait a minute now. You're talking about a movement for Black liberation. What does that mean? Ain't I already liberated? What does that mean that we're talking about Black liberation, Mawuli?
Yeah, no, that's a great point, Daryl. I mean, one of the things that we have to be clear about is that we still experience oppression in every aspect of human activity. Wherever we are and white supremacy continues to exist, we are not free. We're not fully liberated. So we were emancipated, but we have not been truly liberated. And that requires work on our part, that wherever there's systems of oppression, we have to do the work to dismantle them. We have to address all of the isms that are part and parcel of this system of white supremacy. And so we have people working around the country, and one of the things that we don't often lift up enough is the fact that NCBL lawyers while they may not be doing the work in the name of NCBL, because they're rooted in NCBL, they're able to do this work in fighting for political prisoners. People don't know what political prisoners are. That the United States still has people in custody that are in custody because of their political beliefs. They were prosecuted because of their political beliefs. They were targeted, and they were ultimately arrested and incarcerated. We had Veronza Bowers, who had spent 51 years in prison, at the conference talk about his journey as a political prisoner. He was supposed to be released after 30 years. Even that 30 years was for something he had not done, but they kept him. They held him illegally for another 21 years. And so those are the fights that we have to engage in, the work that we're continuing to do, and that we want to make sure this next generation does. And I just have to pause and get people to remember that when we talk about the Black Panther Party, when you talk about an Assata Shakur, you're talking about a 20-something, 23, 24, 25-year-olds who said that they were willing to risk it all to try to fully, completely liberate our people from oppression. And that is, that's quite a feat. And at this stage, we're not asking people to risk it all. We're asking you to commit, to serve, to address the prison industrial complex, these educational systems that oppress. And in every aspect of our life, we've got to confront these systems, and then we need legal warriors to fight those fights.
Absolutely. And let's, talk in our remaining minutes for this segment. Let's talk about two things I want to make sure everybody hears about. During this conference, one of the major thematic focuses, besides criminal justice and so many racial disparities in the fight in the courtroom, there was a big focus on reparations. Whoa, NCBL has been the backbone, the legal backbone of the reparations movement. Tell us more.
Yeah, so NCBL has been a national leader in reparations law for decades. Our longstanding member, Adjoa Ayaporo, she has led this work, and our members have, helped to draft early frameworks for reparation, have worked on, various initiatives on, the local levels as well. And, I'm sitting here with a handbook that was just created by NCBL, led by Adjoa in 2024, just specifically on working to obtain reparations. And so I think, a part of the work now also is just training lawyers and law students to really understand that historical and even international dimensions of reparations work. We just had one of our members present at the African Bar Association's conference specifically on this reparations work and talking about, how we can combine and think about this work from an international perspective. And so from the very start, we have been, leaders in this reparations fight, which I know that you have, played a role in as well.
Yeah,
and I'd like to add on to that, Barbara. I've got just one question I really had to ask of our guest, and that is this: when we're talking about the next steps, what's next for NCBL. When we opened our show, we were talking about what's happening with ICE around the country, what's happening with the attacks on the Black and Brown community in Chicago, what's happening with the attacks on the Black and Brown community in D.C., what's happening, out west, what's happening now in Charlotte. Is there a role that NCBL can play or is playing in dealing with these types of confrontations in these situations?
Absolutely. We have lawyers. One of our past presidents, Sister Nana of Baji, is in L.A., and she leads the work around how we fight and push back against the focus of these what they're describing as immigration policies, but what we know really are targeted attacks on Black and brown communities. And so, we lift up her work that she's been doing and continues to do. That was one of the panels that we had